Where the legends play. Willie 1550 and 98.7. Hello there, I'm Kenny Graves, and on the phone with me right now, she is an award-winning singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist, and dare I say, fashion influencer. She is Miss Season Ammons. How are you, Season?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful. I'm just staying warm and cozy this afternoon, and I'm glad to be on the phone with you.
I'm glad to have you. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, so I'm glad we're able to catch up. Now, quickly, you play a lot of instruments, but that's including your grandmother's dulcimer. So, for folks who don't know, explain what that is.
Well, a dulcimer is it's an old instrument. It's sort of derived from the lute. It came over from many different descendants, and it's truly an American instrument. It was adapted throughout the mountain times, like in the early 1800s. And anyway, it's like a lap guitar in a sense. It's a really cool and interesting instrument, and I'm no like expert at it, but I play it, and I also play the banjo, and I play the ukulele, and the guitar is my main instrument. I also play the piano and some harmonica. But I'm self-taught in everything. I've never had lessons, and so I'm not a purist by any means as far as like say banjo per se. So real banjo players would look at me and go, "Oh, she's not really a real banjo player." I use these instruments like instruments, and I use them as writing tools to help write and just express myself. But guitar is definitely my main instrument that I feel most comfortable at and agile.
All right. Well, I know you grew up listening to a wide variety of genres of music, including Motown, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles. But how early on did you find a true love for performing music?
I would say I started performing music early on, and I'd say around 13. I actually was extremely shy growing up. I loved music, and I was totally drawn to music, but I wouldn't perform or sing in front of anybody. It wasn't until I got into choir in middle school that I kind of found my voice and found some comfortability with other people because I felt safe because I was with other people singing, so I didn't feel so alone. And from there, I got confidence, and I started singing more, and then I started singing in the Opries. Texas has a wonderful Opry scene. Mm-hmm. There's a little circuit of Opries, and so this is back in the 90s, of course, when the Opry circuit was really hot and heavy, so I started performing in the Opries, and that's kind of when I got to be on the stage with a band and kind of learned how to work a microphone and kind of learned the skill sets to be on stage and became more comfortable. Leanne Rimes had gotten her start at the Garland Opry, which is where I'm from. I'm from Dallas, Texas, mm-hmm. born and raised. And so Leanne Rimes and I are about the same age. And so around the age of 14, 15 is when Leanne got discovered, and she was singing at the Garland Opry. So I thought, well, I can do that. Let me go try my hand at that. So that's how I kind of got started performing.
Well, you got yourself seasoned, pardon the pun, and you made the move to Nashville around the age of 17. How was that time for you?
Well, it was quite an experience. I moved out of the house at 17 because I thought I knew everything. And I moved to Nashville with the intention of learning everything I could about being a songwriter. I was drawn to songwriting, and I wanted to immerse myself in the songwriting capital of the world. And it was very much like going to the School of Hard Knocks. I really didn't have a plan. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of wanted to be a sponge. And I learned really quickly that you had to have multiple jobs. You had to be quick on your feet. You just had to be quiet and listen. You had to show up, go to writers' nights, join every club you could imagine, and just sort of, learn what you could. But I did hone my songwriting skills there for many years. And from there, I ended up getting married after about 3.5 years I was living in Nashville, and then I got married, and I kind of put music aside for a while. But those years in Nashville were extremely influential on me.
Well, you entered and you were a national finalist on the TV show Nashville Star back in 2004. How was that experience with your music on a national platform?
Well, first off, it was terrifying because you're in front of a TV a crowd, essentially. I mean, and a production team. I had never been around that. I didn't, I was just still learning stuff like that. I didn't have any idea of how TV and television worked. And so getting to see behind the curtain of a show like that really opened my eyes. But it also made me realize I wasn't ready. I was still very inexperienced. I hadn't quite honed my performance skills, and my songs weren't quite there yet either, if I'm being honest. I mean, I had some good songs, but I still wasn't. I was still pretty young, and ultimately, I didn't make the show because there was other people that were more experienced than me. But being in front of judges that were in the music industry, it was kind of my first taste of getting in the industry, seeing what it actually meant to be in that level of performance and the business side of things. So it really opened my eyes and made me realize I had a lot more growing to do and a lot more to learn.
All right. Well, you produced your first studio album, I'm Alive. So what did you learn from that first project in the studio?
Well, I learned that you kind of have to sometimes not overthink things. I wanted everything to be absolutely perfect. And so it took me almost a year to make that album, and it shouldn't have taken that long because I was mixing and going back, redoing things. And I'm very proud of that record. It actually turned out very well. I recorded that with Stormy Cooper in Houston. And I did realize that there were some amateur moves in there as far as like taking too much time in the studio and overthinking things, overcomplicating things when they really didn't need to be. But I grew as an artist in there, and I learned what I liked and what I didn't like. So that's kind of the goal for any album. You always are wanting to grow as an artist, and each album kind of captures a moment in time for you. And that was kind of the beginning platform for me, releasing records. I mean, it was my first record. I mean, I had been writing songs, and I had so many people going like, you should make a record. And I didn't even know what that meant. I kept thinking I was going to have to wait for a record deal that was sort of going to help launch me. And when I finally had the realization and the understanding that the music industry was changing and that you could make your own records and put them out yourself, that was a big eye-opening experience. And so that was kind of the beginning for me as far as being a, quote, artist, putting out records. So that was in 2011. And so since then, I've put out multiple albums, and it blows my mind when I look back and I go, wow, I've made all these records, and I'm still learning. So that's a good thing.
Well, you had a successful second album as well, and after that, you teamed up with a friend to form The Wide Open. So tell us about that time.
Yeah, so right after I released the 2011 album, I'm Alive, and then I did Wildfire, which was recorded up in Nashville, and then I moved to Florida. My ex-husband was in the military, so we were kind of stationed in various places, and that's how we ended up in Florida. And once we divorced, I pursued music full-time and met some incredible musicians on the Emerald Coast. They have a really great music scene. The Emerald Coast is basically from Mobile, Alabama, down to Apalachicola, and I was living right in the heart in Destin, Florida, if anybody knows where that's at. But so yeah, I was sort of immersed in this like swampy blues, scene, Americana scene with these great musicians. Put together a band of these great musicians, and then met a harmonica player named Alan Rayfield, and we formed the Wide Open, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, I had never written with anybody before, co-written too much, and so that was kind of interesting, kind of sharing the stage with somebody else, having somebody else sort of helping book shows and promote, and so that was kind of a learning experience being in a band like that. And we put out two records together, and then we parted ways. We had some different ideas artistically, and I decided to move back to Texas back in 2018.
All right. Switching gears real quick, Susan. You're well known for your amazing sense of style, and you consider yourself to be a flea market queen. So talk about your taste in fashion.
Yeah, ever since I was a kid, I've always been a little quirky and always enjoyed dressing differently, and my mom always supported that. We didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, so we were always at the thrift stores. We were at yard sales and things like that, and I learned really quickly that you could put things together in a fashionable way and that you didn't have to have a lot of money to do that. My mom used to give us $1, and we'd go to the yard sales, and she'd say, you can get whatever you want for $1. And I always made it a point to see how much stuff I could get, or who would get the coolest stuff. So I just early on, had a knack for putting things together, and that continues to this day. I love having an eclectic wardrobe. I'm constantly on the road quite a bit, and I tour all over the place. And so my favorite thing to do when I'm not at a show or working is I'm checking out the local thrift store or a yard sale, because you just don't ever know what you're going to find. So I love piecing together vintage clothes that are different eras, different styles. I like mixing and matching Western wear with like biker apparel. I like aspects of masculine and feminine, so like leather and lace. I like to be sexy, but not overt. And I think there's a cool way that you can do that, where you can express your style and sensuality through clothes and be unique. And so that's what I've always done. I still do it. And I do get complimented a bit, like, where'd you get that? And I'm like, well, got that on the road in Georgia. I mean, I've got boots and hats and scarves and so many accessories and jewelry. And so, yeah, I'm just a big hodgepodge of vintage and thrifted clothes. So, yeah, I love it.
Well, it's always fun to watch your social media to find out what you are wearing, because you're dressed to the 10. So I do want to compliment you on that. And to play off of that now, season with a lot of ladies, it seems like a hat may make their outfit, but you always seem to make your hat. So how many hats do you own at this time?
I believe I've got about 14 hats, and I have about 15 or 16 pairs of boots, and I would say my other issue is belts. So if you think about it, your head, your midline, and your feet. If those three things are put together, you can put anything together. So I'm a firm believer in, and I will spend money on a good hat and good boots and a good belt. Everything else I can thrift, but yeah, I love putting all that together. It's my favorite.
Very nice. Well, you're also a self-professed home chef, and you even include an original recipe in your monthly newsletter. So what type of food is your favorite to cook?
I love to make really healthy food, but I like to make it taste really well. I mean, I'm not a vegetarian by any means. I love red meat, pork, fish, you name it. But I don't eat it all the time. It's just not something I typically crave. I mostly base my dishes off of vegetables, because I just happen to really, really love vegetables. And I like making things up. I don't ever follow recipes. It's just like my clothes. I just sort of throw things together. I know innately how to make things taste good. So I just sort of like making what I have on hand, sort of looking at the ingredients that I have and like making something. A lot of times if I'm feeling like a particular type of food, like let's say Chinese food, like I'm craving Chinese, well, I'll just make it instead of going out to get it. Or same thing with Italian food. You know, I make pizza crust from scratch. I make everything from scratch when I can. So that's my go-to. It's like literally anything vegetables, fresh, whole. You know, I'm kind of a health nut, but not in a bad way, not in an annoying way. I've had many people tell me that they could eat healthy if I was cooking for them every day, because I make healthy taste really, really good. And people don't realize how simple and easy it is to eat clean and eat fresh. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I like to do when I send out my newsletters, just show people an easy recipe that's just healthy and good.
Well, have you toyed with the idea of doing a little recipe book?
I have. I I think the problem is I have got to start writing what I'm making down, which is kind of why I started making these videos, because I'll make something and I'll have no idea how I made it because I just made it up. And so over the years, I've had so many dishes that family have loved, and they're like, what's in it? And I can kind of recall it. But if I'm not writing it down or documenting it in some way, then it's kind of lost. I could recreate it if I had to, but I would need to start writing everything down and kind of getting it together, because when I started looking at cookbooks, and it's actually a little bit difficult. It's going to take a lot of thought and preparation to put together a cookbook. So, but I'm definitely, it's on my radar. So it's going to happen at some point, but it might take me a few years to culminate all these recipes and kind of get them to where they're easy to read and easy to follow.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I love watching your stuff when you're putting the videos up now, because it does look amazing, guarantee you. Now, proceeds from your single We'll Get By is helping to support Feeding Texas. I know you're passionate about that, so tell us about the organization.
Yeah, Feeding Texas is a great organization, and there's multiple food banks that Feeding Texas supports, and there's one in particular at the New Braunfels Food Bank that I'm very close to, and they provide, you know, meals and pantry goods and lots of services, actually. I mean, outreach services beyond just food. There's many things that they offer in the community that directly influence and impact people that are struggling. I realized, you know, when 2020 hit, I started seeing that there was like a line around my local food bank, and it just kind of hit me. I was like, wow, you know, this is crazy. I mean, we were all kind of going through a lot, and I kept thinking like, well, how can I help? What could I do? And they're constantly needing volunteers, and I thought, well, you know, I can volunteer my time and my services and, you know, music and things like that. So I called them up and got involved. And what I learned was that for the first time in ever, there's people that are going to the food bank who normally never would need to, because there's food insecurity, which basically means they're having to choose between paying a bill or paying, you know, the babysitter, or, you know, having to choose between food and or something else that's a necessity. And so that's kind of why people were having to visit the food bank and just, you know, get their basics kind of met. So anyway, I just thought, you know what, I want to team up with them, and I've got this song that I've written, and I decided to go into the studio and sort of let it be an anthem for the food bank. They've used it in some of their promotional stuff, and I decided to give all the proceeds back to Feeding Texas, and for every dollar that's earned, it actually provides 12 meals to families in need. So I've donated quite a bit over the last year and a half to Feeding Texas, and I'm proud to say that my small donation has helped thousands of people. So it's small, but it, you know, every little bit matters.
It's not small to the people it helped, I'll promise you that. And where can fans find that single? It's called "We'll Get By."
We'll Get By. It's up on Spotify. It's also on iTunes and Pandora, and you can also listen to it on YouTube.
And is there a place they can just make a donation if they just want to stream it and they just say, "I'd love to support it. It's a good song. I want to support it." Where can they go?
Absolutely. They can just go to feedingtexas.org, and there's a donation button, and people can always donate any time of the year, especially this time of year, but they're always taking donations. And also, you can check at your local food bank. They're always taking, any kind of goods, and not just food goods, but they need things like coats and linens and diapers and formula. I mean, anything you could imagine. They're always open to taking any types of donations besides just monetary. And, of course, your time is free. They're always looking for volunteers to help them out.
Very good. Now, you are a prolific songwriter as well. So when it comes to being a tunesmith, a wordsmith, do you like to schedule time to write, or do you prefer to wait for inspiration?
I tend to wait for inspiration. That's usually how it happens for me. I will get a melody or a phrase, or just something will kind of click with me. I'll just be thinking about something, and I'll get a hook. And when that happens, I'll go sit down and kind of write it down, or I'll go to my iPhone recorder and record. I used to have tapes, and I still have hundreds of tapes with ideas on them. And then I went into I got my iPhone, so now I've got about 1,000 voice memos of ideas. So a lot of times I'll get these hooks out, these ideas out, and if I don't finish it like right then, because a lot of times if that song isn't done, if it doesn't just happen spontaneously, I won't force it. Usually I'll get a verse and a chorus, and then I'll kind of set it aside. And usually over the course of a couple of days, it kind of sits with me, it haunts me, it kind of won't leave me alone until it finishes itself. But if I try to sit down and force it, it won't really happen. Sometimes if the song's not there, I'll let it go, and I might revisit it months later. I'll kind of pull up my iPhone notes and look through stuff and see if something grabs me. Those are the times where I wouldn't say I would schedule it, but if I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have a couple of hours here in my day, how can I be productive? Because I'm constantly juggling bookings and emails and social media and making content and all that stuff. But if I have some hours, I'll say, you know what, I'm going to sit down and write. Let me revisit some of these voice memos and see if something catches my attention. So then I might find something that's half written and go, ooh, I'm going to sit on that and write that. So it's a process. It's not really one or the other. It literally kind of happens all over the place.
Yeah, wherever the lightning strikes at.
Absolutely.
Well, your latest album is called Steel Hearts, and that is out now. So I know it's a personal project for you. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, Steel Hearts is a very big album, and it was recorded over at Abbey Road, Studio 2 in London. And it was amazing just to even get to go over to London and record this album. But a lot of these songs were very personal because I was, had moved from Florida and moved back to Texas. I had left my relationship, and there were some toxic things. I had a lot of emotional healing that I had to kind of go through. And so these songs, for me, kind of helped heal me in a sense, and to kind of get them recorded and get them out was really, really great for me. And to get them to record them in Studio 2 in London, that was even bigger for me on a personal level and a professional level. It literally changed my life, and I grew as a person and grew as an artist through that album. And the fact that it's like I got, you know, it's been snapshotted essentially. This album is just it's a stamp, a time stamp of where I was and who I am, and it'll last forever. And I got to make vinyl for it. It's a beautiful vinyl, and I never in a million years thought I would make vinyl. I never dreamed I would have my very own vinyl. So it was a dream come true on many levels. So it I still can't believe it. I still kind of pinch myself and go, wow, that actually really happened. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, recording in London, that's iconic. So, and music is the great therapist. So I'm glad that came out the way you wanted it to. And you're still hitting the road very hard, playing a lot of shows. So tell us about the Season Ammons Trio.
Yeah, well, after the pandemic, you know, just trying to scrape back up again, it was devastating for all of us in the music industry, but for everyone, whatever industry you were in, we all had to find new ways and figure out how we were going to move forward. So I was able to find some great musicians here in the Austin, Wimberley, New Braunfels area that we formed a trio. Kyle Etier on the upright bass and Jane Gordon on, she plays a box drum. It's called the cajon. And the three of us were able to go out and start booking gigs again, you know, try to make money, get back out there. Because it's hard to bring a full band out on the road. It's hard to pay everybody and get all your overhead and your costs paid. So the trio was the right fit to kind of move forward, get back out, get seen, and we're compact, but we're also, you know, louder than just me singing and playing, you know, acoustically. So this is kind of a nice hybrid between you know, solo singer-songwriter and a full band show. So we just hit the pavement, the three of us, and we played over 150 shows in the last, you know, year and a half. After COVID, we just hit it, and we're actually taking some time off here for the holidays and trying to gear up for next year and trying to get our calendar booked for basically the summer and fall of next year is what we're looking to book right now, because I have a new album that I'm working on and gearing up to just try to do shows that are more like listening room, ticketed events, festivals, listening rooms, things like that. So that's kind of where we're aimed at for right now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. You're gearing up for what looks to be a very busy 2023. You've hinted that there's some big things coming. Is there anything else fans can be on the lookout for other than a new album?
Well, there is actually. I'm also working on another project that it's like I don't even really want to say it because it's fun. It's an interesting, fun project of music that is not mine. So I can share that. Totally different than what I've done in the past and kind of unexpected, which can be expected from me. But it's just a fun. It'll be an interesting, fun, diverse thing, a project that I'm doing that will just kind of showcase a different side of me, just because I have so many different sides. So I just want to showcase some other stuff, but that won't be kind of coming out till after I get the new album launched. It'll probably be in the fall of next year when I get this other project out. But it'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, so just be on the lookout for new album, which is this is a fun album too. I'm super excited about it. It's kind of gritty. It's got some indie pop, Americana vibes going on. There's even some 80s sounds kind of sprinkled in. I'm playing a lot of electric guitar in this album. So it's really cool and very different from what I've put out in the past, but still me. So I'm super excited about it. I just did a photo shoot for the album cover a few weeks ago, and those pictures are coming back looking hot, and I was so excited. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to show all the cool stuff I've got going on.
Well, stretching your musical wings. As a fan, I'm all about that, so I'm looking forward to it. Susan, is there anything else that you want to touch on I might have overlooked?
No, I think we touched most of it. I would just say, people can go to my website, seasonammons.com, and sign up for my newsletter. The newsletter is where you're going to get all the information. With social media being so overbearing sometimes, a lot of my stuff can get buried and lost in the algorithm, so I'm kind of fighting against that. But if you're on the newsletter, then you get one newsletter from me a month, and it tells you the shows that I'm doing. You get sort of information about what I'm up to. There is one more thing I'm going to be doing. I'm working on my Patreon page. Have you ever heard of Patreon?
I think Patreon's a brilliant thing. Are you going to include a lot of unreleased material?
Absolutely.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, Patreon is a platform, a subscription-based platform where people can subscribe to your content. I don't know if anybody remembers, being a patron of the arts. A patron used to be a really big thing if you were a patron. And so this sort of plays off of that description of being a patron. And basically you're supporting the arts in your own diverse way. And people can see sort of things that you're working on that you're not releasing to the public. You get early access to new developments, and you can see more of the process of what it is to be an artist. And on Patreon, you can find all kinds of people, from painters to movie makers to people like me who are making albums. So it's a really cool platform to kind of see other people and what they're doing. But yeah, I'm still kind of diving into this platform and kind of seeing how to best utilize it. Because there's different tiers, so people can sign up for $5 a month or $10 a month. There's, you pick whatever level you'd like, and with each tier, you get different incentives. So you might get to see, unreleased, published, pictures from the photo shoot. You get to help me decide what single should be first. You get to hear, demos of some of the songs, and then of course just other content like live streams, things like that I'm not going to be putting on social media because it gets lost. So this is a way for me to connect directly with people who actually want to support me and see what I'm doing.
It's a real treat to be behind the curtain and see what the artist is about other than what you see on regular social media. So I wish you great success with that. Patreon is a fantastic medium.
Well, thank you. I'm going to be, I haven't told anybody yet, so you're the first person.
I feel special.
I'll be kind of launching it after the new year. I want to get through Christmas and through the new year, and everybody's busy and things like that. So I'll be talking about it after the new year, and then probably launching it at the end of January. That's the goal anyway, so that people can start getting in on the new stuff and can start helping me with this new album. So that's what's in store.
Sounds like it's going to be a fun 2023 for you. Susan, thank you so much. It was well worth the wait. What a great conversation.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad, to hear that you've been following me, and it means a lot to me. It really does.
Yes, ma'am. And I hope everybody else does too. Again, what's the website?
It's Season. It's spelled just like the Four Seasons. It's SEASON. My last name's Ammons, AMMONS. So it's seasonammons.com. Sign up for the newsletter. And, be on the lookout for Patreon. And also you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and you can listen to all my music on Spotify, iTunes, and Pandora. And also look at all the videos I have up on YouTube. Just search Season Ammons.
And do yourself a favor, if you're a music fan, you can thank me later. Susan, Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a wonderful new year. And I really look forward when you get ready to release these albums, maybe getting you back on to talk about them.
I would love that. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. 'Tis the season.
Absolutely. For the awesome Season Ammons, I'm Kenny Graves on Willie 1550 and 98.7.